I have chosen the story Neighbors by Rick Carver, and the story is focused on Bill and Aaron Miller and their neighbor Stone's apartment. The Millers and the Stones live in apartments across a hallway from each other, but the two couples appear to have lives fundamentally alike. But Bill and Aaron Miller, however, feel they are missing out on the better things in life. They believe that the Stone lives are more satisfying and more exciting than theirs. The Millers envy the fact that the Stones frequently socialize and travel. When the Stones leave on a 10-day trip, they ask the Millers to care for the planes and its cat, and in a few days the Stones depart. Both Bill and Evelyn are transformed by the explorations of the Stones house. The simplicity of the title leaves a lot of room for interpretation, letting the reader explore its shifting meaning throughout the story. The title creates reader expectation that the focus of the short story is on the relationship between neighbors who are revealed to be the Millers and the Stones. Already from the first paragraph we are introduced to all the characters of the story: Bill and Aaron Miller and Harriet and Jim Stone, two couples who live across a hallway from each other. The exposition is very brief and direct, showcasing the relationship between the two couples, as we see in page 1, line 3. They talked about it sometimes, mostly its comparison with the lives of the neighbors, Harriet and Jim Stone. And here you see there is a distinct focus on the Miller's sense of envy regarding the Stones' lifestyle, as Bill and Aaron find their own lifetime much less exciting. This is a foreshadowing element for Bill and Aaron trying to adopt their neighbor's lifestyle and habits. And the rising action in the short story occurs when Bill becomes upset with the experience he has in the Stones' apartment. He even takes days off work and tries to relax, but still ends up being drawn to neighbor's apartment, needing to continue his life, his fantasy of living their life, escaping from his own life. And like the point of no return happens when Bill tries some of Jim Stone's clothes, we see in page 4, line 9 to 11. He has slipped almost completely into pretending to be someone else and finally finds the reflection in the mirror pleasing. An attention point is created when Ari Lane goes into the Stones' apartment as well, as we see in page 5, line 17 to 19, but for the moment she seems unwilling to openly communicate this. And in the ending, however, leaves them locked out of Stone's apartment, their excitement crushed and replaced by panic. It's an open ending since we do not get to see what happens after, because the Stones in a 10 days trip and there has only been away in 3 days, and there is a cat inside the apartment, so there is a lot of things that need to happen when the Stones come home from the trip. My focus is on the two characters, Bill and Evelyn. They are regular white-collar Americans with regular jobs. Bill is a major character in the story. We found out a little bit about his outer character. We know that he's married to Evelyn and they have no children. We are not told his exact age, but we know that he still works in bookkeeping. Page 1, line 1. Line 2, sorry. So it's the age of retirement. And Bill's inner character is constructed through the narrator's description of his actions and his relationship with other characters and his language through this whole story. And he seems very discontent with his life and his job, and he feels like life is passing him by, especially if he compare it to his neighbor the Stones, as we see in page 1, line 4 to 5. It seemed to the Millers that the Stones live a fuller and brighter life. So Bill chose to escape his life, or at least try to, rather than improve it. And his wife, Evelyn Miller, is another major character in the story. In terms of her outer characterization, we know that she is married to Bill and they have no children. We are not here told her exact age, but we know that she's still in satirical choices, page 1, line 3. So he's also not in the age of retirement. Evelyn Miller's inner characterization is also constructed through the narrator's description of her actions and through language, and also relationship through to the other characters. But the narrator is also mostly focused on Bill's perspective of the events. And the short story takes place in an unspecific point in time, but most likely in the 1960s or early 1970s. we can assume that Naples is set around the time of its publication in 1971, since there is nothing to indicate futuristic elements. The events of the short story happen over a span of 3 days, starting on the evening when the Stones leave for holiday and end when they log out of the apartment. And the physical setting is in USA, because the narrator tells us that the Stones will be away from 10 days, first to Chennai, then to St. Louis to visit relatives, page 1, line 8 to 9, and there's multiple places in USA with these names. And we're also in the Stones apartment, and it's described in quite a lot of detail as we see it through Bill's perspective, page 2, lines 6 to 9. Bill moved to the kitchen and selected one of the stack cans from the claiming drain board. So like the kitchen is organized and clean. And the position of a woman in the society was going through significant changes. There was a strong movement for women's rights and interests called the feminist movement, which led to real changes for those times. And there is Aaron Miller fit perfect into this movement with a new generation of women. And in the short story, is narrated in a mix of present and past tense by a third-person narrator. The narrator is mostly objective and personal and detached, but narrating things as they happen in a flat and factual way. Page 3, line 3, he says, he selected can of fish flavor for the cat. Then he filled a pitcher and went to the water. The narrator is sometimes implicit. For example, the narrator implies that Bill is impressed with the Stones' bed, and without explicitly stating at it. And the narration is sometimes explicit, directly giving information about why and how certain actions are done. As we see in page 2 where I say, he waited until she entered the building, then ran up the stairs to catch her as she stepped out of the elevator. Yeah. And overall the language is like flat, minimalist, with a few descriptions and a focus on narrating the action in a detached way. And there are not many adjective use. There are few adjectives, however, that draw Bill's attention, such as the bitch, which we see in page 3, line 8 to 9. And the scripted language shows us how relaxed Bill becomes in the Stones' apartment. Like, he doesn't rush through his action or looks like things speaks physically, as we see in page 4. But Bill is shown enjoying himself and taking his time in the apartment, not rushing things, just taking it slowly. And the dialogue is important part of the writing style used in the story. It's offer implicit characterization and insights into the character's thoughts and decisions. And the theme of escape is present from the very beginning of the short story. The Miller both pretends to be other people as well as pretending to be somewhere else. This is expressed through brief moments when Bill is in the Stones' apartment, when he puts some of Jim and Harry's clothes on. I've seen page 4, whereas he put on a blue shirt, a dark suit, a blue-white tee, black wingtip shoes. And this is a key moment of the short story, as Bill is shown to be quite pleased with his appearance and even himself. And like he's pretending to be someone he's not, wearing clothes that not belong to him, but the clothes and the things make him happy, and he smiles at his own reflection for the first time. And maybe the message of the short story is not explicit and not made clear by the narrator. Instead, Raymond Carter let the readers are left to drive their own conclusions and judge the action of the characters by themselves. Bill and Aaron Miller attempt to pretend to be people they not are, instead of taking action towards changing their own life for the better. Yeah, and in my perspective, I have chosen another text by Raymond Carver named Tell the Woman We Are Going. The characters in the text are common people present in ordinary daily situations, which is very similar to the impression of realism. They are struggling with issues such as alcoholism and dissatisfaction with their present condition. And the events is depicted in the story are mundane, which the exception of the murder which is only conveyed in two brief sentences at the end of the story. So we'll see like these two stories are very similar to each other and take on dirty realism, and the language of the two texts is also very simple and very minimalistic, which is very fit into the genre. And there is also a lot of common things between the two stories. Both of the stories are like taking the perspective of an ordinary family that have some problem in their life, but daily life is not like fantasy. It's also real and a minimalistic description in both of the story.
And sorry if I sometimes speak unclear and swallow the endings. I'm just trying to learn to speak more loudly and clear, but I'm struggling with the problems on Danish, and English is a bit worse. But thank you for listening to me. Bye bye.